So here we are in day one of higher algebra, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself. I can't learn about all of you today, there just isn't enough time, but you can at least learn a little bit about me, and then I'll walk around during our work time today and get a chance to get to know about half of you. I'll get to know a little bit about you. So what about me? Well, when I was little, we used to stay on an island every summer because my dad was a teacher. And so we would go out to this.
How does that relate to being a teacher?
I'll tell you. Just give me some time. So I was out on an island every summer because my dad was a tech ed teacher, and sometimes teacher kind of runs in the family. So that's one little piece of it. I really thought I was going to be a ranger. A ranger are people that like go out and help others that are kind of like lost in the wilderness, or they give presentations to groups about like, this is how the owl hunts his prey and all that kind of stuff. And I thought that'd be kind of cool. When I got a little older, I was like, you know what, I don't want to be a ranger because I'll have to live in the middle of nowhere, and I'd rather not have to live in the boonies for my whole life. And so I decided, what could I be good at? And I always liked to explain things, and I was always good at math. And so math teacher became the obvious choice eventually. I was considering business, but I actually ended up starting a couple of businesses. So I kind of am a teacher and I've got a business side to me. So I have an econ degree and a math degree. But I was always good at math and I always liked explaining it. So I'm going to be showing you some math in the real world. This is called a sine wave. And that's one of the math functions that we use, sine. And these are waves in the real world, and they're much more complicated in the real world. Holy cow, we just can kind of make a model for them. And then when we talk about the amplitude of a function, it's like how high, if the water here had just gone completely flat and it became flat calm, do you get, don't talk right now, gentlemen, do you get that it would be just completely flat like this? Well, from flat to the highest that it was, that's called the amplitude. So I like to try to relate things to the real world to make it, I think, more interesting than just saying the sine curve is a curve that goes from 1 to -1 and alternates back and forth. And I try not to be boring. I mentioned that I've got an econ degree, and I did start a couple companies. When I was a new teacher, I wasn't able to make enough money to really support my family. I had 2 kids, and I was poor enough that I qualified for food stamps. I was working here in Minnetonka, but as a new teacher with a couple of kids, I made so little money that I could actually get free food from the government. And I was like, man, I don't want to live where I barely can survive. And so I started this company. So it eventually morphed into Insure Savings, which is an insurance agency. And I also started a tutoring company because I like teaching one-on-one. It's probably the ideal teaching because you could get the most across the fastest when you're just teaching one-on-one. And I don't get to do that at regular classes. I teach whole groups. So I focused on the ACT because I'm really good at the math and science sections of the ACT. And I also teach a class like that. So sometimes you'll hear that I give ACT classes, and that's true. A little bit about my summer. I helped my daughter raise cats. She has sold $50,000 worth of cats within the last year. They are $2,200 each. And if you do the math on that, you'd be like, how the heck did she get that many cats? She actually bought a cattery where this person had a whole bunch of cats. And she knew him. And then all of a sudden he died. And they were like, oh my gosh, well, how are we going to take care of all these cats? So she bought his cattery from him. And she kept it going, and these cats are called Burmese, and they're super cute if you can't tell. And this is the mother cat here, and these are the babies, and they are just so fun to like. They do this super cute like wrestling play together, and it's just awesome. So we get to raise a couple of them because she's got like, I don't know, 6 to 8 mother cats all the time, and she'll give them to different people to raise because it's so fun. It's easy. And when at this stage, once she takes care of them when they're super little, because that's the most dangerous phase. You usually lose 1 or 2 when they're super tiny babies. But once they get bigger, it's just fun. So that's one of the things we did this summer. Another one, we drove up to Banff and Jasper, which are in Canada, super north and west in Canada, and that was walking right past our car. It's not a deer. Can anybody name what they think it is? Elk is correct. Very good. That's an elk. And just for perspective, that thing was so big that if you were to grab the furthest apart tines, you know, like they're way up here, try to grab with both hands, you wouldn't have been able to reach. It was that big. It's like the biggest bull elk I have ever seen in my life, and it was just walking alongside the road. I also like to go out on Lake Minnetonka. We have a boat that seats 12, and it's a big deck boat, it's called. And so this is me out with some friends, and it was his last boat trip. Carl is an awesome guy, but he died of a heart attack about a week later. So you only have so many minutes of your life, and you got to enjoy them because you only have so much time. So anyway, we had a great time with friends and family out on Lake Minnetonka. I think what you have in the background there is Maynard's, and we like to go to Maynard's, sometimes to Cove and Sixsmith, and there's a bunch of restaurants out on the lake that are fun to kind of boat to and hang out at.
Isn't that kind of like a tiki bar?
Kind of like a what?
Mom's explained to me kind of like a tiki bar.
A tiki bar. Yes, there is yes, the Maynard's has kind of what you would call a tiki bar. Yes.
I'm talking about the Cove.
Oh,
Yeah, it used to be a different restaurant.
yeah, I don't think you'd say Cove has like a tiki bar because
I know, she called it.
I think we'd say Maynard's is more like that. Anyways, this is a picture that I took when I was on that road trip up to Canada. This is probably the best picture I've ever taken. You can see how the water was so still and we had a nice reflection of the island, and it was just so beautiful that day. So I was blessed to be able to be in such a beautiful place. And it was kind of fun because like literally a week before we went, we didn't have the trip planned. We just kind of like spontaneous. We were like, got a week, let's do it. And so we got in the car, an electric car, and drove up there with the electric car, stopped every 2 hours. The farthest you can go with electric cars is about 4 hours. But every couple hours we felt like stopping, and so we would just charge up for about 15 minutes and then just keep going. And we made it up there with just, it probably total was 26 hours of driving because it's way up there in Canada. But I just wanted to try an electric car road trip. So we actually slept in the electric car too. Because the hotels up there during the prime season at this beautiful place, it's so expensive. It's like $400 a night for a typical hotel. So we just slept in the car, and it was awesome. It was an awesome adventure. This is something for the future. I, about 4 years ago, put my name on the list to get a Cybertruck. That's what that's called. And I know it's a crazy looking thing, but it's an electric car that they say that the battery should last about 1 million miles, which is pretty amazing. And it goes, well, we don't know for sure, but best guess is around 500 miles, maybe 450 for its, like that's a pretty big range, it's called. And the sides are made of stainless steel, and so they will never rust. And you can't even dent them with a hammer. So it's and it's actually technically bulletproof. So pretty much, yep. So anyway, I'm excited to get that, and if I get it this school year, I'm gonna pull it up to the front here.
Can you take us for a ride?
No, can't take you for a ride, but I will definitely have you come out and take a look at it, and you guys should be some of the first in Minnesota to see what this is like, because I'm one of the first to get a reservation. On the night that they offered it, I was like typing it in, paying my $100 to get in line. So, yes.
How much do they cost? When did you get it?
The very first, they've so far the best guesses they've made about 600 of them because there's sightings all over the place. But it's mostly being driven by employees, just kind of testing them out. But they think that maybe about a month from now will be the official big delivery event, and they like have a big hoo-ha video thing online where everybody can watch them reveal it officially, and then they'll tell us exactly for sure what they decided the price would be. My guess is it's going to be under the $80,000 cap, where you can still get a EV tax rebate thing, a tax credit if it stays under 80. So my guess is it'll be under 80. And yeah, let's move on to, I'll talk to you all you want about that later. This is another thing I'm looking forward to. That's kind of what this slide is about. Things I'm looking forward to. These engines, there's 30, I think it's 39 of them. These engines here on the bottom of this craft, A typical one of them might have been the size that we would used to use to launch a rocket. Now, there's 39 of them. It is obviously an immense, this thing is immense. It's a little bit like a building taking off. And this is probably what's going to get humans to outer space, not just to like the moon, but to become interplanetary. If the humans can become interplanetary during your lifetime, by the time you're my age, I'm convinced that for sure by then we will have people on different planets, not just the moon, but different planets. And the only one that's likely in our solar system to go to is Mars. Very hostile, super cold environment, but I think we'll probably get there. Yes?
Is that rocket boosters?
Yes. The ones on the side they kind of like just help you get out into space, and they drop off.
Yes.
And
They
then
drop off because the street levels within there don't have explosives.
Very possible. It sounds like you know more than I do about this. So anyway, these things are going to be tested again. They tested one last school year. They're going to test another one within like a month. If it happens during your class, we'll watch it live, because this is something that is probably, if they get it to work this time where they can get the thing to orbit our planet, then the next step after that is to send it probably to the moon, and the next step after that is probably to send it to Mars. And that's, I think, going to happen within your lifetime. Yes? It's going to be SpaceX, and they also work for NASA, so, because NASA really doesn't launch their own rockets anymore. And so I hear you, there is two things there, but I think the way I understand it, NASA wants to put people on the moon. They put out contracts and said who can do it, and SpaceX said we can do it, and here's how much we would charge. And so NASA is going to be getting to the moon using the company SpaceX. Yes. Yes, the very first rockets usually blow up, and they had 4 blow up, or actually 3 blow up before the 4th one finally worked. And so basically, it's kind of like if you were going to design an iPad. The very first one you design isn't probably going to work. You're going to design it, and you're going to go, oh, that didn't work, and then you're going to make it better and better and better. I think that they will probably test it by delivering robots to the moon first, because then there's no risk of humans getting hurt. So my guess is you deliver a bunch of robots to the moon first. Like, those kind that crawl around, or maybe even the kind that Tesla's working on that walk around. But I'm thinking they'll start with robots just in case something blows up. And eventually they'll get confident enough to be like, yep, it's working. It's worked a whole bunch of times. Let's bring humans up there. And then they'll probably go for robots to Mars first. Same deal. Make sure everything's working for a couple of years. And there's like a 2-year launch window. And then they'll eventually send humans up. So that's something I'm looking forward to. Both of these are going to happen within the next few months. And so I think it's always good to be excited about something that's coming in the future. Question? Okay. All right. So there's a few keys to the success in this class. You're going to figure out that this class is a 90-10 class. And that's 90% tests. And it's 10% other stuff, like homework, quizzes, that kind of stuff. I'm going to put F for formative. And a lot of people will go, well, 90 is so much bigger than 10 that the homework doesn't really matter. Let me make sure you get this. If you don't do any homework, then you have a 0 on 10% of your grade. Do you get that means you're going to lose 10% of your grade if you don't do any homework?
Yeah, if you don't do any homework, you won't do all the tests.
And that's also true, but I'm trying to say, some people are like, yeah, I don't need to do the homework. I can get an A on the test without it. And you might. But if you don't do your homework, you will have a 0 on this part. A 0 on 10% of your grade means that you just lost 10% of your grade. So whatever your test grade is, it would go down 10%. Okay, so let's say you could get a 90% without even trying, without even doing any homework. Well, then you'd have a 90. But with 0 in the formative, you're going to have an 80%. So you could test at an A- level and get a B-. Why? Because if you don't do any homework. So I think it's worth taking the 10 or 15, maybe 20 minutes to do your homework at night. And then you're totally ready for the tests. Don't have to study for them. Probably get good grades. It all works out so well if you just do your homework. And I totally get some people are gonna, find out that, well, I wanted to try it without homework. Okay, cool. And you get your, let's say you get your 92%, and then all of a sudden the grade comes out and you get an 82%. Like, well, how did that happen? Because you didn't do homework. So just do your homework. So that's one of the keys to this class is do your homework. There'd be no big surprise. There's actually brain research besides, and I'm not going to go into that now, it'd take too long, but about why homework actually makes a difference. Another key to success in here is just simply being willing to work. If you work hard at it, it almost always works out. There's almost never a kid that works super hard on this class and doesn't end up getting a good grade, okay? But there are tons of kids who don't work, just take it pretty easy, and then get way lower grades than they would have wanted. You end up with a B- where you could have had an A. It is your life. You get to decide that. But if you want to be successful, you just got to work at it. It's not that complicated. It's not like it's rocket science. All right. Another one of the keys to success in here is knowing that there is a video that gets recorded every day. I am recording a video right now because there's a couple kids absent. And those kids that are absent need to know what we did today. Will you be absent at some point in the year? You probably will. And then you can watch the video and know exactly what you missed. Now, if I were the kid at home, I'd probably be fast forwarding this part because I don't really need to know this part. And you can do that too. But there's a video recorded and posted for every single day. All right. Next, one of the keys is just respect. And one of the ways you can show respect is not talking when I'm teaching. Another way is by not having your cell phone out and texting people while I'm teaching you. And there's other ways to respect people you probably know, and I don't want to spend a ton of time on that. So just basically, I try to use that one word to just describe how the class should be, and it should be respectful. I'll be respectful to you, you'll be respectful to me, and you're respectful to the kids around you, and it all works out great. Another key to success in here, and that's the last one I'm going to talk about, is working with the kid next to you. You're going to do a fair amount of comparing, what'd you get on this one? I did it, I got 2. And you compare to them and they're like, I got 6. And you can be like, can you show me what you did? I multiplied this and I added that. I added them first and then I multiplied. And you could talk about it a little bit, but you're not going to want to talk to that person until you get to know them a little bit. So that's going to happen today. You're going to get to talk to one person just a little bit, find out their name, find out a little bit about them, so you can kind of break the ice to know them a little bit, and then you'll be able to use this key, which is working with the kid next to you. I'm going to be able to help too, but there's only one of me and there's 31 of you. Okay, so it'd be best if you have somebody else you can talk to, and we have a pretty good system of kids working together in here. Okay. One of the things I like to do is to make sure the kids understand a little bit about their brain and how your brain works, because that helps you to learn. I don't teach kids. I don't teach math. I teach brains. Because your arm isn't learning from you right now. Your foot is not learning from you right now. It's only your brain. So I need to understand brains. And if you want to become a better student, you want to be able to make life a little easier. How do I learn best? How do I remember best? I want to teach you a little bit about your brain. So one of the things I'm going to mention today is just that your brain geotags where you learned something. A lot like a camera geotags where it took a picture. Do you get, if I take my camera, and I'm not going to do it right now, but let's say I took a picture of you guys, it automatically records exactly where I took that picture. So I later on can sort by where I took the picture. If you guys haven't done that before, on your iPhone, you can sort by where you took the pictures. And it's kind of cool. It puts a whole map up and you're like, oh, there's a big cluster of pictures out in Florida. What the heck? Oh yeah, I was in Florida. And I took a bunch of pictures there. It sorts them by where you took them, because every picture has a geotag with it. You have to actually remove that if you're going to post something online if you want people to not know. See, a lot of people are like, well, people don't know where I took this picture. If they're smart, they can click on the picture and look at the geotags and know exactly where you took that picture. So some of these social media influencers and stuff will put a picture up and think that nobody will know where they took it. They can know exactly down to the foot where exactly they took that picture. If they want to find that person's house, it's way easy. My point, your brain does that with memories. So I'm about to teach you some math, and I want you to be in the seat where you're going to test on it also. The way researchers figured this out is they took kids, and the day before the test, or no, the day of the test, they shuffled their seats and tested them that way. And on the control group, they let them test in the same seat where they learned it. And they found that there was a statistical significant difference, as in you did worse if they tested you in a different seat than where you had learned it in the first place. So, all of that to say, I now need to put you in your assigned seats, because what I told you up to now was not something that is critical that you remember, but now in a moment we're going to actually be doing math, and I want you to remember it, so I want you to stay in that same seat till we test on it. Don't move yet, though. You can pack up if you want, but don't move. I'm going to be telling you where to sit. I'm going to pause for a second. And then at the end, after I've showed everybody where their seat is, then we all move at the same time. I'm going to pause while we do that. So now we're in the assigned seats. Blank notability docs are coming back out again. Put the smiley face on it like this. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you to turn that my way so I know that everybody is ready to write. And I will start teaching you some math. Realistically, it's a lot of reviewing. Now, usually there's a kid where their iPad's not working and I will get your paper. All right, please turn your iPads my way so I can see how many of you are ready and with me. Thank you. And you got paper? All right, cool. All right. Thank you. Good. So here is some actual math. That is an equation. Y equals 2x plus 5. I want you to see if you remember how to sketch that. If you thought it was right here, you are totally wrong. Try to figure out what the equation to that looks like. I'm going to give you a little hint. It involves the slope and the y-intercept. See if you remember how to graph an equation. I get it. It's been a while, but we got to start somewhere. Just kind of get your feet under you again. In a moment, you're going to turn and compare your graph. It doesn't have to be a complicated, super accurate graph, just kind of a sketch. But again, if yours looks like this, you are totally wrong, because that's not going through the right y-intercept, and the slope could be argued, but the y-intercept is for sure wrong. So you're going to compare your answer with the kid next to you, but I don't want you to start with math. I'm going to ask you to talk to that kid next to you, and again, if you ask for seating changes, this could change for tomorrow, but at least for today, all I want you to know is the name of that person I pair you with, and one thing about them. Like, for example, for me, at your age, it would have been basketball. I love basketball. I loved it so much I would sit there and like figure out ways. I was pretty dang good at one-on-one, and so I would figure out like moves that were going to work against my really tall friend. I had to learn like fadeaway jumpers because they're really hard to block if you can do a fadeaway, and figure out the right fakes and stuff, and I'd be sitting there like sketching out plays, and so basketball would have been my thing at your age. I ended up, I love basketball so much that I put a half court in my backyard. Just dug up and had the concrete guys come in, or actually blacktop guys come in and put a blacktop in my backyard because I love it so much. So anyway, I want you to know one thing about that person across from you. It's these two rows. You're going to be talking to the person straight across from you. Their name and something about them, and then write it on your iPad. Because otherwise, 5 seconds from now, I'm going to say, what's her name? And you're going to be like, I don't remember. So find out their name and one thing about them, okay? These two rows, it's the person straight across from you. In these scenarios, it's going to be you two, and then you two, and you three. Get to know each other. It's going to be hardest for you. Turn around. Talk to them. Get to know them a little bit. Go. I'm into basketball. Remember, write down their name and one thing about them, because I'm going to call on a few people. I'm going to say, who is that? What's one thing about them?
Is the high school baseball season starting?
We have an ATF draft next week. I'm not done
Okay. Random person. You. Who is that?
Carter plays baseball.
Carter, baseball player.
Plays soccer.
He plays soccer. Okay, awesome. How about you?
Amelia.
Amelia, in the dance. Awesome. And
Naomi plays baseball.
Liam plays baseball. Okay, cool. And that is Fina, and she doesn't have fun. Okay, that's your fun fact. There's no fun facts. All right, fine. And then Fina, who's this?
Jackson.
And his thing?
I found the pronunciation of Hawkins name very funny.
Okay, that's okay. I think I would go with something like you really love basketball.
But I enjoy playing football.
Football. All right, cool. I played football in high school too. Who's your person? Okay.
This is Madison, and she plays violin.
Madison, the violin. Oh, cool. I love the violin. Itzhak Perlman, famous violinist, maybe not. Who's like one of the, oh, I know Stradivarius violins are amazing. And then who's like one of the masters?
Suzuki.
Okay. All right. Anyways, let's get to this math question. Now, for a second, I know some of you already did this because I heard, but would you please compare yours to theirs and see if your graph kind of looks the same? All right, would you agree that it has to go through the y-intercept of 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to put a dot right there. You know, you could have gone up a little less high and called that 5. The scale can be anything you want. And then the slope has to be fairly steep because the slope is a slope of 2. How do you judge that? Well, you go up 2 and over 1. Remember, rise over run is what slope is? And so slope of 2 could be thought of as 2 over 1, 2 rise for 1 run. And that means it goes up 2 and then over 1. So that is a slope of 2. So there's basically what your graph looks like. But here's an even more important skill. On an XY chart, could you tell me 3 points that are on that graph? Hint, put in 0 and you would have gotten 5 because, you know, the y-intercept. But find me 2 more points that are on this graph. You can pick any number you want. Put in x is 1. Put in x is 2. Put in x is -1. I don't care. But find me a total of 3 points. That's one of them. Find me 2 more points that are on the graph. I'm going to pause for a second while you give that a try. And again, I'm recording the video while we're teaching so that anybody absent can learn from that. All right, so I'm hoping you put in something simple like 1, because then we can get a point for that. I put the 1 right here, and then I have 2 times 1 is 2, plus the 5 makes 7. 1 comma 7, raise your hand if you had 1 comma 7. Awesome. You didn't have to have 1 comma 7. You might have put in 2. And if you had to put it 2, you'd put it right here, and 2 times 2 is 4, plus the 5 makes 9. 2 comma 9 would have been another point. All right. Now, all these little skills, I've already gone over graphing a point. I've already gone over how to graph an equation. And I've already gone over how to find 3 points on a graph. Would you agree those are all like things you've learned before? Right? Those are all algebra. Guess what you're in? Higher algebra. Do you get that we have to understand regular algebra first before we can do the higher algebra? All right, so that's what this is. This is 20 algebra concepts that you have learned before. I'm not going to reteach you all 20. I will happily if you ask me, but I'm not going to make you sit here and listen to me teaching you 20 things. Because most of you are going to be like, that's super easy. But I'm telling you, there's a ton of you that are going to have forgotten little things like, I'll say this, x plus 5 squared, and a ton of kids are going to think it's x squared plus 25, and it's not. Why isn't it? Because it's really x plus 5 times x plus 5. Do you get, that's got an x squared in it, and it's got a 25 in it, but it's also got the outside and the inside, which would be 5x, and 5x makes 10x. So the actual answer is x squared plus 10x plus 25. Do you get how that might have been easy to like oops on? We're going to try to keep you from making those really common mistakes. That's how you do that one. Now, I can explain all of them, but it does take me about 5 minutes to really thoroughly explain all of them, and there's 20 of them. 20 times 5 is 100 minutes. You want to sit here for another 100 minutes? Probably not. So only ask me on the ones you get stuck on. And by the way, pro tip, the answers are on the back. And the answers have work. So you can look at it and go, oh yeah, I remember that. So like, if it can't get any easier, guys, I gave you the answers with the work on the back. So what are you really doing even? Are you just copying the answers from the back? I hope not, because we're going to be taking a quiz on this stuff tomorrow or the next day. So bottom line, take a second and learn it, relearn it. I'm handing these out now, and you'll have to the end of the hour to work on that. Finish it up at home, bring it back done. Okay? And that's all I have for you for the video for today.